Hello everybody! If you have watched this entire series so far, welcome back! And if you're new here, glad to have you with us! Now that my fiber is pre-drafted, let me show you how to start yarn on a hooked spindle. Just draft one end of your fiber thinly and fold it over your hook. Pinch the fiber together to hold it in place with your fiber supply hand and give your spindle a twirl in the direction you want to spin your yarn. When you have about 4 inches of yarn, take it off your hook. Then tie a lark's head knot and slip it on your spindle shaft just under the whorl. You may have to draft out a little more fiber in order to reach the hook. Then twirl and draft as usual. Don't worry guys, this video is sped up. Neither I nor my spindle can spin this fast. When spinning a new fiber, it is good to test a small amount by drafting at different thicknesses to get the feel for how the fiber wants to be spun. It is also a good idea to measure the wraps per inch of the ply pack test to get an idea of how thick the final yarn will become. And of course, you can butterfly and wind on your yarn the same way you would on a bottom or low whorl spindle. I suppose you are wondering what the difference between a high and low whorl spindle is. A top or high whorl spindle, like the one I am using, is one in which the whorl is located close to the point where the yarn is attached to the shaft. These spindles usually have a hook that you can loop the yarn around just above the whorl. One of the biggest benefits to using a high whorl spindle is that it is super easy to start without having to tie on a leader yarn. Top whorl spindles tend to have a lot of shaft that can be used for rolling along your thigh. Another great benefit to using a high whorl spindle is the ability to use a foot roll to set the spindle in motion. There are some setbacks to deal with when using a top whorl spindle as well. For one, the center of gravity is at the top of the spindle, causing it to wobble. While it is easy to spin a top whorl spindle super fast, wobble can cause the spindle to rapidly slow down and stop. This means that the spindle has to be set in motion more often, which can slow down the yarn production. Having a straighter shaft and a more balanced whorl can somewhat alleviate this phenomenon. It also helps to keep the spindle as vertical as possible when you set it in motion again. A bottom or low whorl spindle is one in which the yarn is attached at the top of the shaft and the whorl is attached at the bottom. These spindles usually sport a notch or a groove where the yarn attaches rather than a hook. If there is no hook, the yarn can be attached by a half hitch around the groove or notch. You also have a choice between winding the yarn up the shaft to the tip of the spindle, or you can bring the yarn below the whorl and hook it around the tip of the shaft, then bring the yarn back up to the top. If you wind the yarn up the shaft, you can roll the spindle along your thigh for a faster, longer lasting spin. You can save time by hooking the yarn around the bottom, but you will only be able to start the spindle by flicking it with your thumb and fingers. Flicking is usually going to give you a shorter and slower spin time than rolling it along your thigh. Another benefit of using a low whorl spindle is that it has a low center of gravity. This balances the spindle kind of like a top and results in a steadier, longer lasting spin than a top whorl spindle. Because of this, the low whorl spindle is usually a better choice for taking on a walk, since it is less easily stopped by outside forces. That being said, there can be some downsides to using a low whorl spindle. Since there is little to no shaft below the whorl, it can be tricky or even impossible to start a low whorl with your feet. This means that you would either have to raise your fiber hand above your head, or you have to butterfly the spindle up to where you can restart it. At that point, you may as well wind on. Another issue is that while it has a longer spin time, the majority of that spin time is spent slowing down. To compensate for this, you must slow your draft, which slows down your yarn production. It is also tricky to start a new yarn on a low whorl spindle without a pre-spun leader. If you are new to spinning, I recommend a top whorl spindle as they can be easily started with or without a leader. They also have plenty of shaft for you to use in the park and draft method that you will likely start out using. Since you won't be walking and spinning as a beginner, you don't need a very long spin time. And since high whorl spindles tend to have a fast spin, you don't need it to spin very long before you park it. Once you have mastered the park and draft method, I would highly recommend a bottom whorl spindle. The slow, long-lasting spin will allow you to more easily draft in time with the spindle. Starting a yarn on one of these will also offer you a new challenge to master. Once you are comfortable with both spindles, it is up to you to decide which one will work better for your upcoming project. I hope you found this video helpful. If you would like me to demonstrate any of the techniques mentioned, please let me know in the comments below. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see more. Also, you can find this yarn in my shop. The link is in the description. Until next time, happy crafting! And God bless.